So I guess we must be live right now. Um, they're having some difficulties with this new YouTube Live. They don't have Google Hangouts anymore. They took Google Hangouts down. Um, but my name is JD, and I am your host for Best MMA Picks. So I'm just gonna kind of go with this as we go. Apologize for the technical inconveniences, but I just had to set up some new streaming software, and I have no idea if this is working right now. So bear with me. Um, That's why I'm so late in getting my picks out. But we're just gonna kind of wing this as we go here, and hopefully you can see my screen okay. Hopefully the stream's coming through all right. But the main card is UFC Hidalgo, Texas, Dustin Poirier versus Michael Johnson, and there's a uh, whole list of fights here on the card. There's six main card fights. I'm just gonna go down and break down rather quickly my picks for the main card, and I'll give you my gut leans for the prelims. I'll probably have a few picks posted tomorrow, but this card is actually going to probably be one of the cards that I play less picks. I may have a couple picks from some friends that I will play, and I will post those um, in our picks on Capper Tech. So make sure you check out the links in our link portal in our description, and make sure that you follow our Twitter account for live coverage of the event. Um, all right, so let's just get this started. Um, we will start from the bottom of the main card and work our way up. First fight, we have Chaz Skelly versus Maximo Blanco. Chaz Skelly is predominantly a wrestler. Maximo Blanco is, I believe he has like a black belt in, I think it's Taekwondo or another form of martial arts, if I remember correctly. Uh, he's primarily a striker, but he also has a background in wrestling as well. He's fights out of Tokyo, Japan. He's got some pretty decent striking, but he tends to make a lot of mistakes and leave himself open to counter strikes. Um, he's got some pretty nasty kicks. Um, and he also has the ability to submit guys. Most of the time, he gets guys to the ground though, and he is able to get them with heavy top control and just kind of beat up on them with his wrestling abilities. Um, but he also has some sneaky power behind him. He's definitely a capable guy of knocking guys out as well as submitting them, but he's just a very inconsistent fighter. With Chas Skelly, you have a very tenacious wrestler and a grinder, gets guys tired. Maximo Blanco is a guy who in the past has been prone to, you know, getting a little bit winded as the later rounds go on. And I believe that Chaz Skelly is going to get the job done here. I really believe that he's going to be a little bit more. What's the word that I'm looking for? He's definitely more of a grinder in this fight, and that's going to probably be the determining factor as far as the will to win. It goes to Chaz Skelly, and he's just a tough ass guy. So my pick for this one is for Chaz Skelly to defeat Maximo Blanco by decision. Next fight we have Chris Wade versus Islam Makhachev. Both of these guys are excellent fighters. This is going to be one of the fights that I'm actually looking forward to. Islam Makhachev, I believe, is coming in as a favorite here. I believe he's coming off of a knockout win. I forget to who. He's an up and coming Dagestani fighter, similar to like Rustam Khabilov and Rashid Magomedov. They all kind of train together and they all know each other. All from Dagestan. Very strong wrestler. Some of the best grappling in the world. Um, excuse me. He actually is coming off a knockout loss to Adriano Martins, which we actually had somewhat predicted that one. A lot of people were on Makhachev, and we thought Martins could possibly play a role in an upset there, so we actually laid off of that one. Um, now that I remember that. Um, and I don't see there being any difference here except for the fact that both these guys are very similar in their grappling abilities. I would say that Chris Wade is a very difficult guy to take down. Therefore, I have a feeling this one's going to stay on the feet, and it's hard for me to say who gets the edge here with the striking. I definitely say that the stronger chin's going to go to Chris Wade, whereas the striking, just technique and advantage there with the threat of the takedown would go to Makhachev. But I just worry a lot about the chin of Makhachev um, being a problem here with this fight. And so I got to go with Chris Wade to grind this one out and somehow maybe land a couple bombs in the clinch or maybe clipping his chin. Uh, I'm relying on a mistake to be made on the Russians' side, and I think that's where it's going to happen. But this could be a very close fight, and I think the odds makers have it correct. I think it's a coin flip, but I got to go with Chris Wade to defeat Islam Makhachev by. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna go by TKO. Next fight we have Ron Carnero, Jucao versus Kenny Robertson. Um, Ron Carnero's got some mileage on him. He is a definite threat. He is like a second degree BJJ black belt, if I remember correctly. He's one of the world champions, I believe, at one point. Um, let me confirm that. I'm not as well versed in my BJJ as my buddy MMA Savant, so I'll give him credit there. Um, but this should give us the information that we want. He actually lost to Derek Brunson, who knocked him out. He went to the World No-Gi Championship for the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation in 2013. So he did go to the No-Gi Championship. Um, he's definitely a high-level BJJ guy. And he's fought all over the world, or grappled all over the world, I guess you would say. Um, he's going up against a really tough wrestler, though, with Robertson. But this one may be one that Kenny Robertson might get out grappled here. But I do worry about the age factor here with Carnero. I think that Carnero could submit Robertson, but Robertson's a Division One capable wrestler, and they have the odds here almost at a pick'em, which means to me, I would say that the odds makers are giving quite a bit of respect here to Carnero. So this one's kind of tough, but I'm gonna go with Kenny Robertson here. I can't back the age factor here, so I'm going with Robertson to be the younger, more fresher fighter with a better tank, a better gas tank, just a little bit more athletic right now, being that he is younger. And I think he's going to get the job done by a decision, but not without some close calls and possibly even, some close submissions. But I think he'll get the job done here. I'm not super confident on that pick, so take it with a grain of salt. But I'm going with Kenny Robertson to defeat Ron Carnero by decision. Next fight, we have Evan Dunham versus Rick Glenn, the Gladiator. Um, This is kind of an interesting one. Uh, we got a newcomer here. I haven't seen any footage on this guy. Don't know much about him. He's only lost 3 times. And we've got a proven UFC veteran who is kind of on an upswing with Evan Dunham. I'm going to leave this one to be really simple here. I think Dunham is he's a smotherer, and I like his style. He just gets up in your face. His technique isn't the most crisp technique, but he's gotten a lot better with it. He's just a relentless fighter, and I like that about the guy. Even if he's losing, he's going to be throwing leather. And you got to give it up for the guy that he does not back down. And that's why I think he's a great pick. I mean, I think he's a great pick against just about anybody, save, the champion. But I think at some point he may get a title shot if he can continue winning. This fight, I think he's going to win. So I'm going with Evan Dunham to defeat Rick Glenn by a unanimous decision. I've got primetime Uriah Hall here versus Derek Brunson. This one is this is an interesting one. I think that both of these guys have the potential to end this fight. I don't think Uriah Hall is going to be an easy guy to finish. He's a very safe fighter. He's a somewhat defensive guy. He's good at counter striking. He's just excellent when he goes on the offensive, which he almost never does. Derek Brunson is an offensive fighter, but he has the tendency of throwing um, without a band with you know with without regard to his chin. So uh, I think that could be a very big problem here with Uriah Hall. If Uriah Hall connects with a head kick or just some crisp striking, some taekwondo, um, I think that Derek Brunson could get knocked out here. I really do. And it just kind of depends on which Uriah Hall comes out on this fight. This one might actually be an excellent opportunity for live betting purposes. If Uriah Hall comes out aggressive, I think he's going to win this fight. If he comes out timid, like he normally does, there's not a chance in hell. Derek Brunson's going to get him to the ground the same way that Chris Weidman did when they met on the East Coast. They actually fought each other at one point, not in the UFC, but if you look at the footage there, it was just Chris Weidman the whole time getting Uriah Hall on his ass. So similar situation here. Derek Brunson, I believe, is a Division II wrestler, but he's a very capable MMA wrestler. He can grapple with the best of them, as he's shown when he took down Yoel Romero several times in that fight. And he was winning that fight almost all 3 rounds before he got knocked out. So, very disappointing loss for him, I'm sure. I got to go with Derek Brunson here to get the job done. I don't have any confidence in Uriah Hall until he mentally prepares himself for these fights. I can't lay any money on the guy. So, but keep an eye on him for live bet. Derek Brunson here to defeat Uriah Hall by unanimous decision. And the last fight of the night and the main event, Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Michael the Menace Johnson. Another very evenly matched fight. I think that Michael Johnson's a little bit underrated here. He did get beat up pretty bad. Excuse me. He did get beat up pretty bad by Nate Diaz in that fight. Dustin Poirier is actually going to be a smaller guy who has fought at featherweight before. Now he's moved up to lightweight. He's looked really good. He's got a little more power at lightweight, and he's got a speed advantage. I like his look at lightweight. And I think that this one's going to be pretty even, though. I think Michael Johnson's got some size. He's got some wrestling. He's got some good striking, good boxing, good footwork. I think this one could be very close. But I got to give the edge here to my boy Dustin Poirier. I think he's going to get the job done. I just really like what he's done and what I've seen with his striking lately. And he's just really good. I believe he's an elite striker now. I think he could finish Johnson here. We could see a definite finish here, similar in the fashion that Reza Madadi finished Michael Johnson. I'm going with Dustin Poirier to defeat Michael Johnson, and I think it could be an early fight. I think he could finish him possibly in the first or the second, and that's going to line him up for a nice title shot. Maybe he'll get a rematch with Conor McGregor someday. Who knows? But Poirier's not immune to a knockout, so it could go either way. But I got to give the edge here to Poirier, and don't fall asleep on Michael Johnson though. He's been one of those guys who has upset so many times against guys that you thought were going to win. So you can't count him out of the fight. But I just think Poirier's he's in a position now where, and he's motivated. He's in a position now where he can elevate himself to the top and get a title shot eventually. And he needs to come in to this fight and win pretty convincingly, to get up there. So I believe he's going to do it. I'm going with Dustin Poirier to defeat Michael Johnson. I'm going to go by TKO in the second round. And that's about it for all of these fights except for the prelims. I'm going to give you gut picks. I've not looked at any footage on these. Take them with a grain of salt. Alejandro Perez versus Albert Morales. I know nothing of Albert Morales. I've seen Alejandro Perez fight, once or twice. I'm going to go with the guy that I've seen more and who has more fights under his belt. Going with Alejandro Perez to defeat Albert Morales by decision. We've got Eric Montano versus Randy Brown, Rude Boy. This one could be kind of interesting. I'm going to go with Randy Brown to defeat Eric Montano. I'm going to go by TKO. We've got Jose Quinones versus Joey Gomez. I'm going to go with Joey Gomez to defeat Jose Quinones by KO. Got Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Leonardo Augusto Leleco. I believe that this one could be an upset. I'm going with Leleco to defeat Carlos Jr. I think he's going to catch him. I wouldn't be surprised if he catches him, especially if Antonio Carlos Jr. can't put him away immediately. I could see him just getting, as the rounds move on, I could see him catching him. So going with an upset here, Leleco to defeat Carlos Jr. by TKO. Augusto Montano versus Belal Muhammad. Going with Belal Muhammad to defeat Montano by decision. Gabriel Benitez versus Sam Sicilia. This is a tough one for me, but I like what's happened with Rick Little's camp here in Spokane, my hometown. I know that those guys work really hard out there, and I know what those guys are capable of. And Sam Sicilia is, he trains with the best of them. Trains with Michael Chiesa. They're good friends, actually. And I think that Rick Little is a good coach. And I think Cecilia's going to get this one. I think it's going to be a tough one. Both these guys are going to come in. We could see a fight of the night, maybe. It just depends. But I think fight of the night will probably go to Poirier versus Johnson. But you never know. This one could be kind of the one that flies under the radar that, it's the main event of the prelim. So going with Sam Sicilia here. I'm not going to fade the hometown guy. Every time I faded my hometown heroes, I've lost every single time. I'm going with the hometown hero here. I'm going with Sammy Sicilia to defeat Gabriel Benitez, and I'm going to go by TKO. And I think he's going to get it done here. So that about does it, guys. And thank you for tuning in. I hope that you guys can hear me okay, and I hope that the stream came through all right. Best of luck to everybody this weekend. Enjoy the fights. Our official picks will be posted, or official plays, I guess, where we would be putting money on our Capertech website or webpage. And those will be posted on our Twitter feed at the top, pin post. You can look at them there, and our Twitter is at Best MMA Picks. All of our links to Twitter, Instagram, all of our social medias are located in the link portal in our description below. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you're looking for a good book, the best book that we have is in our description below. It's 5dimes.us, and they're a great book for MMA betting, and they have live betting, one of the only books to offer that. So make sure that you sign up for an account there before tomorrow. And thank you for tuning in. And this is kind of an adjustment for me with the new streaming through YouTube. They've done away with a lot. Google's been making a bunch of changes, so bear with me here. I'll get the hang of it, and we'll be back to normal in no time. Thank you for tuning in. Please give us a retweet. Please, drop us a line or drop your picks in below in our description and comments. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate it. We've got some exciting stuff coming. There'll be probably an MMA gear store coming up here as a sponsor store, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be opening and launching that very soon. And thank you for tuning in. Everybody have a great night.